I think that they're a team that, yeah, they could be in playoff contention if they stop blowing fucking leads all the time. And after that, they're pretty much fodder for whoever's going to try and go through them to get to a Super Bowl, most likely.
I actually went a little higher than a C. I said C+, because I like the Richie Grant pick. You've got to replace safeties. He's a good safety, a really good safety. I think he's going to step in and make an immediate impact. Maybe not necessarily immediately be better than what you had with Neal or KZ, but he's going to be better than what they currently have on the roster. The offensive lineman, Mayfield, is going to make a big difference for Matt Ryan. Those two picks make it a solid C+ for me. The rest of the picks is like, okay, you got a corner, all right, you got another offensive lineman. Then you go late round and get a D lineman. You go late round and get a linebacker and a late round corner. Okay, like you're doing kind of what you should be doing, but you really needed to focus on defense and not necessarily playmakers, but you need guys you need those ugly, unpopular draft picks of an offensive lineman, of a defensive lineman. You know what I mean? And they didn't fully address that, but I like the safety they got in Grant. I love the Jalen Mayfield pick. So solid C+ in my opinion. Which...
Yeah, it's passing, but no one's impressed.
Yeah. Which moves us to the most annoying fucking pick of the fucking draft, and that is the Carolina Panthers. First round, they picked cornerback J.C. Horn, which fucked everything up for the Cowboys. Second round, they drafted wide receiver Terrace Marshall. Round 3, they drafted tackle Brady Christensen. Round 3, they drafted tight end Tommy Tremble. Round 4, they drafted running back Chuba Hubbard. Round 5, defensive tackle Davion Nixon. Round 5, corner Keith Taylor. Round 6, guard Deontay Brown. Round 6, wide receiver Shi Smith. Round 6, long snapper Thomas Fletcher. Another long snapper. Whatever. And round 7, defensive tackle Phil Hoskins. All right. So this one for me, the hardest part was determining what the best pick is. I really thought the pick here is to get Sam Darnold help, and Penei Sewell should have been available at 6, but he wasn't because the Lions took him with pick 5. So that threw a wrench in what I think the Panthers were going to try and do. So then they took corner J.C. Horn. Now, I'm torn between the best pick being round 2's wide receiver Terrace Marshall, round 3's tackle Brady Christensen, and round 4's running back Chuba Hubbard. I don't think I can distinguish which one I think is the best, so I'm just going to say all 3 of them. For me, where I think it's the worst is in round 3 when they went tight end Tommy Tremble. Not because tight end in the 3rd round is a bad pick here, but because I don't see him being any sort of value outside of he'll come in, maybe shift into the backfield and be a blocker for Sam Darnold. I don't think he's got the hands to be a receiving threat, and I don't think he's as good of a blocker to be a standout blocking tight end. So he's like somewhere in the middle, and I don't really like that. But that's just me being nitpicky because it's a 3rd round tight end that I'm saying is my least favorite pick for them. Technically, my least favorite pick is J.C. Horn because it fucked everything up for Dallas. But he's a really good player, so I'm not going to give them shit for that. Although they went with the wrong corner. If you're going to take a corner, the first corner should have been Surtain. Other than that, I like the J.C. Horn pick for them. He's going to be a real monster in that secondary with Jeremy Chin, who can do just about everything you need outside of defensive line. Wide receivers, they got a couple of good ones. Shi Smith, very underrated player. Gonna love seeing him come in and do what he does. But Terrace Marshall Jr. has the ability to be a real game wrecker and a game changer for the Panthers. You can't hate what they did in this draft unless you're a fan of the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. I liked a lot of what they did. And I know you guys said they're not married to Darnold, but I think they did show him a degree of confidence because they easily could have gotten Fields at that pick, and they chose to stick with Darnold there. So they're going in on that.
They also got him some extra weapons, which
for sure
gives him some more confidence that this team actually thinks of me and not just I'm here to fill a role until we find somebody better-ish.
Right. And I think that's huge for everybody. I think that's huge for Darnold's confidence, and I am of the opinion that Darnold could be good with a change of scenery. I think we failed him more than he failed us, we being the Jets. J.C. Horn is terrific. Terrace Marshall is potentially the steal of the draft. I don't love Hubbard. I don't think he's going to be a good NFL back. But for when they get him in like the fourth or the fifth, who cares? That's a good flyer.
Fourth round, especially because he's going to come in and be a change of pace back behind Christian McCaffrey. He's not the main back. They brought him in to be a specific role player, and I think that role is going to be played really well by him.
Right. So yeah, that's why I don't have any problem really with anything that they did there. I like Shi Smith too. I think he's a pretty underrated receiver. He's not going to see much of the field in his first year. They've got because Terrace Marshall's going to get that third receiving spot. They've got really nice offensive weapons now. They helped their defense, which was already pretty solid. Just overall a good draft. I know they're getting a lot of hate for not going with Fields, but if you're gonna go for a trade for a quarterback and you believe in him, then you might as well go all in on that.
Fields only made once they traded Teddy Bridgewater away. That's when I knew Justin Fields was not their draft pick. Because you don't draft a quarterback who's going to be the complete opposite of the guy that you're going to have in front of him to start the season. It makes no sense. Teddy Bridgewater, very similar to Justin Fields. Strong arm, very good at escaping the pocket. That offense, if it were going to still be built around Teddy Bridgewater, that's a perfect switch into Justin Fields for the future. This is a big change as opposed to what Justin Fields would see. That's why I don't think immediately my first thought was they're not drafting Fields because they got rid of Bridgewater. But
that's a fair assessment also considering. I'm having a hard time choosing someone I don't necessarily like on their team, or with their draft selections. I even like, which I know it caught a lot of flack in this draft because it wasn't very deep, but taking Nixon out of Iowa, he was a third ranked at defensive tackle. They didn't really necessarily need that, but when he's sitting on the board, that's a great pick to just take. Why not?
Yeah.
Especially with the picks that you have. Why not get her better at a spot that we may be solid at already, but you know what? Maybe the guy needs a breath or something. Yeah, or exactly what you said. And you're right, Terrace Marshall, Dan O'Shea, you said, I believe it was you that said Terrace Marshall might be the steal of the draft. He's definitely one of them. Definitely one of them.
I guess one of the few knocks I'd give them is I don't know if you need to really draft a long snapper, but I guess if it's the 6th round, it's not the...
that's my same feelings with them getting Phil Hoskins in the 7th. literally drafted one in the 5th. What are you drafting another D tackle for? But, I mean, it's the 7th round, so they're just like, fuck it, who's the best on the board? Take that guy.
I mean, in all honesty, how many 5th, 6th, and 7th round players actually end up making the team? Not many.
More than you think.
Well, yeah, more than most people think.
The NFL is honestly, the majority of the NFL is built of 6th to 3rd round picks. The ones that are 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, yeah, there's some gems in there that are really good, but surprisingly, a lot of the times those dudes fall off. And
let me ask you a question, not related to this, well, kind of related to what you said, Dan O'Shea. Would you consider someone the steal of the draft if they went undrafted?
I guess you technically can't, but there are certainly some UFAs that are going to play with a chip on their shoulder that's deserved for every team passing on them.
How did the best linebacker on the best defense in the country, Dylan Moses, not get drafted? That's the steal of the draft because he didn't get drafted. I think it's Jaguars picked up Dylan Moses. They just got the best linebacker from the best defense in college football, and they didn't have to draft him. That's all I want to say. We'll talk about the Jaguars, 6 or so weeks down the line. But yeah, I really like what the Panthers did.
What an Urban Meyer thing to do, by the way.
For real, what an Urban Meyer thing to do. Yeah. My draft grade, I had to give them an A because really they did nothing to hurt themselves, and all they did was help themselves. Again, my big critique is they drafted a tight end who's not great at either catching or blocking in the 3rd round. If that's my big critique, you drafted well. I give him an A.
Yeah, I give him A-. Really, really solid draft, which I'm slightly unhappy about because we have some of their picks, and I want them to be worse this year, not better.
That's a good point.
Fair.
That is it.
I've got to tend to agree with you guys. I was kind of hung up before when I was doing my research on the teams about B+, A-, but based on everything we've been saying, it's got to be an A- at this point. I mean, there's some questionable picks, like you really need to pick a long snapper. You really need to draft another defensive tackle. But again, those are so late that if you're really going to critique them for that, then you're not looking at the whole picture. And the whole picture says that they did exactly what they needed to do for the team that they're trying to create, especially in the division that they're in with the defending champions.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely tough. You've definitely got to do what you can to try and nullify the Patriots. Oh my God, the Patriots! I was just thinking Tom Brady, and immediately went to Patriots.
The Tampa Bay Patriots.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Patriots, exactly. So it's going to be tough for the Panthers to do that because remember, the core of their team is still young and still just really they drafted 7 defensive players in last year's draft. And the big hit...
We're looking how much Christian McCaffrey being out last year affected them. They could have been vying for something. So now you get a quarterback that has a question mark, but you've just given him some weapons. He's being gifted McCaffrey. Defense is solid. I really thought Sam Darnold's biggest problem was, and no offense, O'Shea, being coached on the Jets.
Not to mention his best weapon.
No offense.
His,
I agree with you.
his
with Adam Gase, and it was just too much to turn around. They all everyone needed a change.
Not to mention,
Gase was probably the worst hire ever, and I think I said that from the start.
Yeah, I think you did.
The Jets are just in history because there might be some Cleveland Brown coaches that were selected that could disagree with that.
Anytime Tom Cable or what's his name, Greg Williams was hired, was the worst hire as a head coach. But one thing I want to say really quickly, About